Hello. Do you know, there seems to be a mystique about teaching children how to read and write. I guess it is because most of us adults were young when we learnt to read, and we have forgotten how we did it. After a while, the skill of reading becomes automatic, and the how to do it somehow becomes lost. My aim is to take some of this mystique away, because it is relatively easy for children to learn to read and write, so long as they are taught to work the words out from the beginning and to progress from simple words to more complicated ones. With reading, there are two basic skills needed. Let's look at them. The first skill is decoding. That's word reading, getting the words fluently off the page. And the second skill is comprehension, which is understanding the words. The skill of decoding is being able to work out unfamiliar words by looking at the letters from left to right, saying the sounds linked to the letters, and then blending the sounds and listening for the word, as in these words. K-at, cat, or slightly more complicated, sh-eep, sheep, or longer and perhaps more unusual words like a, d, mermaid. Once a word has been blended a few times, it becomes known, and then decoding is only needed for new words that have not been read before. Comprehension, on the other hand, is just as important as decoding, but it is a different skill. Comprehension mostly develops naturally through speaking, listening, and reading. And English-speaking children whose parents read stories and talk to them a great deal have a huge advantage when they start school. Their understanding of spoken English is much better, and they have a far wider vocabulary. However, it does not teach them how to read. What it does do is enable them to understand and enjoy what they are reading once they can easily read the words on the page. And on the whole, comprehension skills improve naturally through spoken language. But there is nothing natural about learning to read and write, and it needs to be systematically and carefully taught using synthetic phonics. One of the main skills for writing is being able to hear the sounds in words and choosing the correct letters for those sounds. For example, if a child wanted to write the word dog, he or she needs to hear the sounds d, o, g, and write the appropriate letters, like this. Dog, d, o, g. Dog, d, o, dog. This skill is known as segmenting. In steps 1, 2 and 3, the first 42 letter sounds are taught one after the other. This actually is one way of representing the main sounds of English. Then this is followed in steps 4 and 5 by 22 more letter sounds, which are the main alternative ways of representing those sounds. That's a different way of spelling them. With the knowledge of just these 64 letter sounds and the skill of blending, the children can read thousands of words by working them out for themselves. As the children learn the letter sounds one by one, they are taught how to read and write words that use those letter sounds. And gradually, the children progress from reading words to phrases and then to sentences, and finally to reading books and writing independently. Naturally, a program has to have an order for introducing the letter sounds. Now, this order is not particularly significant. It really does not matter if a g sound is taught before a b sound, or an I before an a, so long as the children learn them and also learn how to use them for reading and writing words. And this is the order we chose for Jolly Phonics. Our reasons were as follows. With the first group of 6 letter sounds, you can make the most words, and that was what we wanted to do, to have plenty of words with which the children could practice the skill of blending. We introduced the caterpillar k early on so that its shape would help with learning the letter sounds that start in a similar way, such as the d, o, g, qu and a. We kept the sounds d and b in separate groups because the children often muddle them up. And in group 4, the a, o, I, e and or sounds are all digraphs. That is, 2 letters are needed to represent one sound. We deliberately introduced digraphs before we had finished the single letter sounds because we wanted to say that the digraphs were just as important as the single letter sounds. People often say they teach phonics, but miss out the digraphs. Now this is like giving the children half a code and expecting them to work out the rest for themselves. Some of the children will still manage to succeed, but others will struggle and they often fail. Now, these digraphs would not be so awkward if only one way was used to represent each sound, but frequently in English there are many ways. For example, let's look at the A sound. Now here are 3 common ways of spelling it, and they are taught in steps 2 to 5. The first one is the AI, as in rain, hail and laid, and that comes in step 2. Then there's the A hop over E, which is sometimes known as magic E or a split digraph, and it comes in words like name, cake and plate in step 4. And then there's the AY in step 5 for words like day, way and play. However, if that was not enough, there are even more alternative spellings than these. But in reality, there are far fewer words that use them. And these more unusual spellings are covered in step 6. Here we have the single letter A, and it usually, in fact nearly always, has an A sound. But in these words it has an A sound, as in apron, angel, change. Then we have EI, as in faint, vain and veil. EY in they, grey, obey. And then we have EIGH. Now 4 letters are needed for the A sound here, as in words like ate, nay and slay. Then there's ET at the end of ballet, sorbet and buffet, and there are very few of these words. And there are even few of the EA with an A sound. Now this EA nearly always has an E sound, occasionally has an S sound like in head and bread, but here it has an A sound in the words great, break and steak. And then there's the AIGH as in straight, and as far as I know that is the only one. So you can see from this that the English alphabetic code is complicated, which is why we start in a simple way and gradually introduce children to the more complex aspects of the code. And as each new letter sound is taught, more words become available for reading and writing. These words have been provided for you in the free materials in the resources section on the home page, as well as at the end in each of the steps for teaching reading and writing. So here you can download the words that you need for the teaching. And you can see as each new letter sound is introduced, more words become available. So with the N, now these words are available. With the K, these words, and so on. Take care that only the letter sounds are used in the early steps and not the letter names. For example, the name of this letter is S, but its sound is S. Now, if you teach the letter names at the same time as the letter sounds, then some children muddle them up, and this can cause blending problems. The child sees the letter and they're not sure which is the right one, whether to say S or S, and they dither instead of saying the sound confidently. For example, with the word sun, the child might say S-A-N, and then the word sun cannot be heard after it has been blended. Whereas if the sounds are used, then the word can be heard. S, a, n, sun. The alphabetic code is based on the sounds only, and it is best to avoid letter names for at least the first 2 steps of teaching reading and writing. And even then, care should be taken to avoid muddling the children. Remember, the letter names are only needed as a grown-up way of speaking about the letters, or when using materials that are organised in alphabetical order, such as a dictionary. So in conclusion, this simple overview, which I have here, provides the necessary guidelines, and it can be downloaded, and you can see at a glance what is taught in each of the steps. And that concludes the overview of the step-by-step teaching. However, for teachers who would like more details about actually using Jolly Phonics in the classroom, with a storyline, actions and songs and so on, there are 2 types of courses available. One is an online training course, and the other is a day course provided by an experienced Jolly Phonics trainer. More information about the courses and downloadable materials are available by clicking on the following relevant buttons. Thank you.